The first NFL Sunday of the year. And if you clicked on this video, that means you're probably as excited to make bets as I am, and hopefully I can help. In this video, you're going to get my 4 favorite picks for week 1 Sunday action, including 2 sides and 2 player props to get us on the winning side. Let's start the season off right. But before we begin, just make sure to subscribe and like the video. It is the best way to support this channel without spending a singular dime. And also, let me know in the comments section below, what do you think of my plays? What are your favorite plays? I'd love to start some discourse again in the comments section below. I'm not going to waste any of your time. Let's get straight into one of my favorite sides of the week. That is the Raiders, +3 against the New England Patriots. The Patriots under 8.5 wins almost made my future card because I think the market is getting a little ahead of itself. I love Mike Vrabel, and I like some of the players they acquired in free agency, but I'm not buying them as a 3-point favorite out of the gate. Headline edition: Stephon Diggs, but the reality doesn't match the name recognition. At 32, coming off an ACL tear, Diggs is no longer the explosive separator he once was, and this passing game still lacks the true pop on the perimeter. Compounding matters. The Patriots are breaking in 2 rookies on the left side of their offensive line, creating immediate stress points against one of the league's most relentless edge rushers in Max freaking Crosby. Mismatch alone forces New England into this survival game plan. Chips from tight ends and running backs. Heavy doses of quick game and screens designed to neutralize Crosby's impact. Even then, it's a unit with limited explosive upside, and they lack the weapons to capitalize on yards after the catch opportunities. Yak, they don't got it. Tends to lean into Vegas' strength on defense. Keep everything in front of them. May should have a high completion rate in this game, but I have my doubts when it really comes to explosives. The Raiders' defense, outside of Crosby, I'll be honest, it lacks true star power. We're not going to lie to ourselves, but that's precisely why defensive coordinator Patrick Graham leans so heavily on scheme. Expect him to throw a variety of disguised coverages, simulated pressures on third down, and run fit tweaks to cover for personnel gaps. It's a system built to force offenses to string together patient drives, something this young Patriots group has just not consistently shown it can do. On the flip side, you got Chip Kelly taking over as the OC for Las Vegas. Expect a run-centric identity built around first-round pick Ashton Jeanty, the 6th overall pick in last year's draft. Kelly's reputation as a creative run game architect pairs well with Jeanty's skill set, thrives after contact. He should immediately elevate what was the league's worst rushing attack in 24, 32nd in both EPA per rush and success rate. Beyond traditional carries, Jeanty is also a dangerous weapon on screens, another Kelly specialty, giving the Raiders multiple ways to stress linebackers and keep the offense on schedule. Now, New England invested heavily in the defense. They added Milton Williams, Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, but the personnel doesn't really match up with what the Raiders want to do. Patriots' strength lies in their 2 boundary corners, but Christian Gonzalez was announced out. A massive blow. 12 personnel with Bowers and Michael Mayer creates a unique bind. Meyer can handle inline blocking duties to reinforce the run game, while Bauer shifts into this mismatch hunting mode against linebackers and safeties. If the Patriots commit to heavier boxes to stop Jeanty, they open themselves up to Bauer's versatility. If they play light, Kelly's run game has the green light to churn. My model makes this game closer to New England -1, as I have these 2 teams pretty close to even on a neutral field until proven otherwise, and I'm really struggling to find an identity for New England, while I think Vegas's is clear. Chip Kelly's run-heavy attack featuring Jeanty, complemented by Bowers and Meyer's ability to create mismatches on the field, add in Crosby's potential to wreck the game against an inexperienced left side of the Patriots line, and the Raiders simply have more immediate pathways to the explosive plays that often decide early season games. Also, the Patriots' edge when it comes to coaching, I love Mike Vrabel, but the Raiders have Pete Carroll, who's 4-1 in his last 5 openers. Like I said, I make this line closer to 1, so at +3, give me the Raiders. Did I do that cool? Not really. I'll never do that again. Don't worry. Give me the Las Vegas Raiders, +3 against the Pats for a unit. And before we get into my best bet, you can find all of my picks on BetMGM. If you're new to BetMGM, just use code JustGridiron. By wagering at least $10 on your first pick, you'll get it all back in bonus up to $1,500 if that pick loses. It's always a good idea to take advantage of these sportsbook offers whenever possible. And remember, it's code JustGridiron on BetMGM. For our next pick, we're going to look at a plus money player prop, looking at the number 1 overall pick from last year in Cam Ward. Now, Cam Ward is known for the arm, but it's actually the amount of times that he's going to use his legs that I'm most interested in. I've noticed a trend brewing in week one for rookie quarterbacks making their first career start. Last season, Caleb Williams took off and ran 5 times in his first game, slightly higher than his 4.75 attempts per game. Jane Daniels isn't really a great example because we all know he wants to run anyway, but in week one last year, 16 rushing attempts, which he only did one other time that season. Bo Nix, also known for using his legs, recorded 5 rushing attempts. Going back to the 2023 rookie class, CJ Stroud ran it 4 times, nearly double his season average from that season. Bryce Young did only run it 3 times, but it was higher than his average of about 2.2. Anthony Richardson played 4 games in his rookie year, averaging about 6 rushing attempts per game. In his first game, ran it 10 times. Will Levis averaged less than 3 carries in his rookie season, yet took off for 7 attempts in his first start. Even Aiden O'Connell, who barely averaged over 1 rushing attempt per game, ran the ball 3 times. You want to keep going? Let's do it. Why not? Let's keep going. Back to 2022. Brock Purdy had 4 rushing attempts in his first game, never going more than that in his remaining starts. Kenny Pickett rushed 6 times, tying his season high. Desmond Ridder rushed 6 times as well, another tie for a season high. It's clear the rookies feel the pressure in their first game, and while there might be openings, defenses come in, they scramble out, and they want to make a play. They want to make an impact in week one for their new team. So what do? Scramble. Cam Ward averaged a whopping 9 rushing attempts per game over 2 seasons at Washington State. Transfer to Miami, rushing attempts decreased significantly, but he still averaged 4.6 per game. Denver's defense allowed 3.92 rushing attempts per game last year, mainly due to its heavy reliance on man coverage. Denver's man coverage heavy scheme made one of the NFL's best units, led by Defensive Player of the Year Pat Surtain. Denver projects to have a strong defense again, and they match up favorably on the perimeter with a good but unspectacular Tennessee receiving core. While sticky man coverage is a weapon, it does leave them vulnerable to scrambling quarterbacks. Denver allowed a scramble on 5.2% of dropbacks in the defined passing rate. That, coupled with what will likely be a limited, if any, separation, is going to leave Cam Ward scrambling as his best course of action. Cam Ward's rushing attempts line, 3.5 plus 120. I think it's worth it to find out, so I put a unit on it. Let's get into my favorite side of the week, and as you can probably tell, I am a Rams fan, but pains me to do this. Texans plus 3.5. Stafford made headlines this offseason as he's dealt with back issues, but all the chatter out of Rams camp is that he's going to be ready to go for this one, and I believe him. He's a bulldog. I'm not shocked he's playing at all, but at 37 years old, I just have my doubts he'll be at his sharpest. And to beat this Texans defense, you have to be 100%. The Rams face a tough assignment against a Houston front that features Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter, both of whom ranked in the top 12 in pass rush win rate last season. And LA's offensive tackles are league average on their best day, and their left tackle, Alaric Jackson, has missed most of training camp while managing a blood clotting issue. And Matthew Stafford's health magnifies that uncertainty up front. The veteran quarterback has been limited by a back problem and already struggles with mobility. Perf, FT, and Fantasy, 71.4% of Stafford's sacks in 2024 were attributed to him holding the ball too long. A dangerous recipe against this Texans pass rush. Now, the Rams, they added Davante Adams, who finally gives Stafford a true X receiver presence. But in this matchup, Adams draws all-pro corner Derek Stingley Jr. in a Houston man-heavy scheme. Adams is going to get chances, but Stingley's physicality and ball skills give the Texans a legitimate shot at just neutralizing Davante Adams right out of the gate. The Rams' ground game leans efficient rather than explosive, and it could get phased out quickly if negative game scripts or long down and distance situations start to emerge, right? Houston thrives dictating pace with defensive pressure, and the combination of Anderson's game-wrecking ability and Stingley's lockdown coverage make this one of the toughest matchups, probably the toughest matchup that LA is going to face all season long. I mean, it's early. It's week one. Chemistry still developing with these new weapons in LA and Stafford's rustiness from a delayed offseason. I just don't think the Rams are going to find the end zone often. And then on the flip side, it's not like Houston's offense is that great, right? Offensive line, significant liability in 2024. They allowed the most quick pressures in the NFL. Unit has seen some turnover. We'll see what they look like. I know there's still some question marks, of course, and it is particularly concerning against Jared Verse, who has really emerged as LA's premier pass rusher with a 27.3% pass rush win rate. It's elite. If the Texans can slow him down, CJ Stroud may find himself operating under constant duress. Now, These concerns were evident last season. So what did they do? They made an offensive coordinator change. Bobby Slowick is out. And it's not surprising to me that he didn't find a job. Well, he did. He's a passing game coordinator for the Dolphins, but he didn't find another offensive coordinator job. They brought in Nick Caley this offseason, the passing game coordinator for the LA Rams. Spent 2 seasons in LA, and I have to imagine he'll have a good game plan against his former team. Houston's going to be able to throw the ball on LA, in my opinion. Nico Collins, one of the league's most dominant boundary receivers, finishing second in yards per route run in each of the last 2 seasons. Rams' outside corners are, in my opinion, a glaring weakness, and Collins has a skill set to exploit them with explosive plays downfield. Christian Kirk's not going to suit up, which stinks, but Jaden Higgins is getting rave reviews out of camp after the Texans took him in the second round last season. Dalton Schultz, I actually think, is going to have a pretty viable role in this game. Reliable pass catcher, should act as a safety blanket as the Rams rank 30th in receptions allowed to tight ends in 2024. This side of the ball boils down to protection. If the Texans can just give Stroud a second to operate, Collins can create one of these 1 or 2 game swinging plays that I think is going to end up tilting the outcome. And as a dog over the key number of 3, I like those chances. This projects as just one of those ugly, physical games where both teams are going to trade body blows early. Houston's clears path in creating explosives through Nico Collins, rookie Jaden Higgins, a route to points that looks far more attainable than what LA is bringing to the table in this matchup. The Rams' offensive ecosystem is deeper on paper, but the combination of Jackson's limited practice time and Stafford's back issues, I think, caps their ceiling in an early season spot. So a full field goal already shows value on Houston. So if +3 is the only thing available for you, take it. But I took +3.5 because I found a cheap -122. It's worth it for me. I make the Rams about -1.4, -1.5 point favorites. So the Texans are my favorite side of the week. Give me 3 in the hook with Houston. And before we get to my final play, it is worth noting that this line has moved. Obviously, I can't control line movement. If you want to join our Discord, it's just $10 a month. You can find the link in the episode description where you get my plays as soon as I bet them. You will sweat out the plays, talk about them. It's a load of fun, right? But if you don't want to join, no problem. But just sometimes in these videos, line move. I make the picks earlier in the week. It happens. But let's talk about it. I'll tell you how you can still bet it even at a different price. Now that we got all that squared away, it's time for a ladder prop. And we're going to look at a guy who maybe outside of Carolina you've never even heard of, but you will after this game. Ja'Tavion Sanders, over 16.5 receiving yards, 19.5 receiving yards, and 29.5 receiving yards. Let's talk about it. The second-year player out of Texas, Ja'Tavion Sanders, entered his draft year with first-round buzz before slipping to the 4th after an underwhelming final season and draft process. But don't let that fool you. Sanders remains one of the better yak threats in his class. In 2024, averaged 10.4 yards per reception, despite playing a limited role in that offense. But now in 2025, runway is wide open. Adam Thielen, Minnesota. Jalen Coker, out. Sanders is positioned to become a primary slot option in a depleted pass-catching group. Kind of opportunity is just rare for a young tight end. With only an 8% target share last year, even modest growth in usage could lead to a breakout. Factor in the natural development curve for second-year tight ends, and Sanders has every chance to emerge as the go-to option right away in week 1. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Sanders' numbers in 2024 were, let's think of a nice way to frame them, modest. His production often came in bunches, thrived as a yak specialist using his unique blend of size and speed to chew up yards after the catch and break tackles, with 188 of his 342 total yards coming after the catch. Sanders showed he can generate explosive gains even on limited volume. His profile makes it realistic that he could clear 16.5 receiving yards in a single reception. Head coach Dave Canales has a track record of creatively scheming opportunities for playmakers. With the roster thin at receiver, I think he's going to lean on Sanders, not just as a safety valve, but as a source of explosive plays. Last season's results support that upside. Sanders cleared 16.5 yards in 5 separate games, and in 5 of those 6 games, where he earned at least 5 targets, posted 35-plus yards. For bettors, what I think this signals, volume is the key variable. Whenever Sanders is given the opportunity, consistently produce well beyond market expectations. And this matchup, does it get any easier against the Jacksonville Jaguars? And I love the Jags. We took them over 7.5 wins. but not because of the defense, because I believe in their offense. I mean, they finished 31st in EPA per play and allowed the most receiving yards to pass catchers of any team. Explosives were a massive issue. They allowed big plays on 11% of dropbacks targeting inline players and 9% of dropbacks targeting the slot. It's precisely where Sanders lives, lining up in the slot on 83% of his snaps. Now, Jacksonville is a new DC, right? He comes from Green Bay, where the scheme leaned heavily on single high looks. Those defenses are inherently vulnerable in the seams, an area Sanders can exploit. If Carolina leans into Canales' creativity, Sanders has a clean schematic path to damage. The game environment also works in Sanders' favor, right? Jacksonville, above average offense, explosive playmakers, probably going to score early and often because it's not like Carolina's defense is any good. And I think that forces Carolina into more of a pass-heavy game script, raising Sanders' floor and ceiling. And even if Jacksonville shows some defensive improvement, which I think they will, it still remains a unit that's vulnerable to chunk plays, exactly the type of plays Sanders is built to create. From a betting perspective, ideal alignment of matchup and game script. Jacksonville's offense is expected to generate points, forcing Carolina into chase mode. Not only lifts overall passing volume, but specifically benefits a player like Sanders, whose role as a seam-stretching slot tight end combines perfectly with the weaknesses of a single-high blitz-heavy defense. In other words, it's not just a good matchup. It's a schematic bullseye. So I project Sanders for 28 yards receiving. So again, I took over 16.5 for 1.68 units. I took over 19.5 for a half unit, over 29.5 for a quarter unit. I took the latter. Obviously, you're probably wondering, Peter, that's not the line. It's 22.5 or 21.5, depending on where you shop. Like I said, I project 28 yards. I still think it's worth a unit play, but if you enjoyed this analysis, maybe it's worth more. You decide. Let me know what you think of my picks, and let me know in the comment section below, of course, what your favorite picks are for week 1. I am so freaking excited. Make sure to subscribe. We got picks coming all season long. But we just have to remember, it's not gambling advice.